So inflation and foreign exchange. Now, this is where, this is really where the kind of depth of the argument is kind of reached, right? Having presented some basic examples, the student now reaches much more argumentative detail. And that's really the key to this whole thing, right? We now reach the argumentative detail. So let's have a read through together. Money printing may not necessarily result in inflation under certain circumstances. Firstly, with a severe lack of demand from the private sector, it is unlikely that inflation would be severe. Despite expanding the money supply in 2013 and yield curve control in 2016, Japan has struggled against deflation for decades due to relatively stable inflationary expectations and weak private sector demands. So it's very clearly stating the exact reasons behind all of this. And that's exactly what you also want to look to do when you construct your own essay. So let's continue. So caused by a falling population and high marginal propensity to save, right? Furthermore, should the central bank credit newly created funds to private banks, the extent of inflation depends on private banks' willingness to lend. So again, we are now introducing a new theory, right? We're introducing the idea that the private bank is unlikely to lend as much in this situation. Then, in the aftermath of the 2008 global financial crisis, banks' tendency to keep the Fed's newly created money as reserves meant that inflation was hardly affected, as the ratio of commercial bank money to reserve bank money shrank. Despite this, these circumstances are highly specific, and in the case where printing money is the sole method of funding fiscal expenditure, the extent of printing money is so great that inflation is guaranteed. So what they've really done here is this is a great example of chain of reasoning, right? So they have, the student has stated clearly the conditions that lead to guaranteed inflation. That's the key point, right? They've clearly stated the conditions that lead to this situation. So just remember, when you're writing your essay, really try and produce a logical flow. You start off with a statement, you then infer some sort of truth from this statement, and continue that inference until you arrive at your answer.